And welcome back to All Over the Map. Thanks for tuning in. We have news of the day for the 4th of March, 2022. This is the GeoGuessr Games news of the day here on All Over the Map, where we feature 5 news events and we play them on the GeoGuessr game. So, we'll get into this and play this as usual as a no time limit moving allowed challenge. And as always, we invite you to play along. The play along link will be in the description below. And let's get into it. Let's get into the 5 news events of the day. All right, so we got an interesting one here in the middle of nowhere. It looks like, if we zoom in a little more, it says you are now leaving Western Australia into South Australia for the first time in, I think, 697 days. Yeah, 697 days. There's a border within a border. So border of Western Australia to South Australia. And here we are. It says Western Australia ends one of the world's longest border closures. I don't know, folks. 697 days. The state of Western Australia has at least reopened, thus ending one of the world's largest border closures. It closed on April 5th, 2020. Almost 2 years. Folks could not leave and go this way, head east. They had to stay here in this part of Australia where it's sunny, it's down under, they're trapped. So good on them. They're able to get out and explore the world, because that's what we want to do here, right? On All Over the Map is travel. So let's find out where this was, or this is. It was 697 days. Now we're we're day 1 of back to, I would guess, a little bit of freedom to move about here in Australia. We're on this border here, the border village. The one thing I didn't realize when I was doing this, I didn't realize the border was that tight. I mean, do you have to check in? I just thought in a free country like Australia that you're able to just roam about as long as you're within the large island, so to speak. But I guess not. I mean, I think we were here. But it says Border Village Roadhouse. And if I just take a look at this, it does look like you have to. Maybe it's just for weight limit. I know that in the United States, if you're a tractor trailer, lorry, whatever you want to call it, you have to go through a weight check. So maybe that's what this is. But to have an actual border, I thought that was interesting to have like a stop. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just a weigh station for trucks. Comment down below if you know this. Maybe they set this up for Corona. I don't know. Just thought it was interesting. There's SAWA. So there we are on the border. 51 yards, 5,000 points. So we go from one country on one side of the world to another country on the other side of the world. And what do we have here? Nothing but the White House in the United States. Joe Biden's home. And you can see anybody on here? I'm surprised that when I did this, that Google Maps was actually on the campus of the White House. Inside. So here on All Over the Map, we'll take you inside places that you normally don't visit. So here we are on the grounds. A little, I would say, looking pretty decent, although looks like temporary pavement marks on it. But yeah, looks pretty good. Well, let's get to it. What's the story? What's the deal with the White House? There's always probably something going on in the White House. Well, today, Biden meets Finnish leader to talk about possibly support of NATO. So U.S. President Joe Biden meets his Finnish counterpart, Sauli Niinisto, at the White House on Friday, as Russia's invasion of Ukraine has roused fresh concern for other European countries and raised the prospect that Finland could form a closer alliance with NATO. Finland already cooperates with NATO, but is not a member, and support for full membership has grown in the country since Putin's invasion of Ukraine. They have spoken to each other twice in the past few months. So Finland, a European member, which was part of the Swedish kingdom until 1809, and then was under Russia's control after gaining independence in 1917, has also sought to preserve friendly relations with Moscow. So Finland's in quite the interesting, I guess, I wouldn't say it's a predicament, but it's an interesting sharing a border with Russia. And Russia doesn't want him to join NATO. So, but NATO has said the country has retained the right to apply for membership. And last month, Finland sealed a $9.4 billion deal to buy dozens of stealth warplanes in the United States. So it's always interesting on a day where Biden and NATO meet at the White House right there. Yes, they met there today, Friday, the 4th of March. Let's find out where the White House is, because some of you may know, may not know. But here we are, Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, and let's make this a little larger, why don't we? So we've got the White House here, the Washington Monument, and over here is the United States Capitol. By the way, for anybody that's interested in ever visiting Washington, D.C., you see Smithsonian museums here. They're all free. The Smithsonian National Museum of History, National Wonders, African American, the Space and Air Museum. They're all free. You can walk in and enjoy a lot of history, a lot of science. Anyway, I just thought to point it out because I'm into that sort of stuff, and I would imagine that most of you watching this as well. The White House here, the iconic home of America's president. I think we're right here. Interesting. The White House basketball court is temporarily closed. I know Obama liked to play basketball. I don't think about Trump, although I know Trump's son did play football, or soccer as we call it in the United States, for actually I believe even DC United at some point in the academy system. So I know that they had played soccer or football, whatever you want to call it, on the south lawn of the White House. And then the basketball court, interesting enough, it's temporarily closed. It should be over here, I would presume, but don't see it, so I don't think Biden plays basketball. But in any case, enough of that. Let's guess that. 3 yards, 5,000 points, and let's see what takes us next up. And we head over to the conflict in Ukraine, and this is one of the largest right here. Nuclear, I didn't realize that clock there, an old school clock with the old lights. But this, which is always interesting, but this is the, not sure what that's about there. Comment down below if you know this, but this is the Russian forces had, anyway, let's get into see this. Russian makes gains in South Ukraine after seizing a major nuclear plant. This is it. The blaze at the Zaporizhzhia plant in the Ukraine southeast was extinguished early Friday, but not before it spread fears of catastrophic fallout across the continent. So they say the blaze at this place is this place here, which is interesting because I look at it. For me, when you see a clock like this, right, and it's got the old where it's light bulbs and not up to date. I know they got a nice new sign here, but to me, I don't know. Looks a bit outdated. That's just my commentary on this, I guess. But in any case, this was they got the fire under control, but this is under, I guess, Russian control now, which is always interesting. So let's find out where this is on the map, because I know that a lot of, again, why I do this in the news events of the day is because majority of the news channels don't put these maps out there for the public to see for whatever reason. I don't know why, but the good thing is I've seen a lot of the major news outlets putting maps up of Ukraine as pertains to the war and the advances by Russia. But for the most part, you don't see where this is. They just say Zaporizhzhia. This is it. It's an oblast as well, I believe, but where is this? Well, it's actually not there. It's over here in Ernard. Don't know how to say that. I'm not going to attempt, but here it is here. This is it here on the Dnieper River. And yeah, see, Zaporizhzhia Oblast. So that's where we are, just so that everybody has an idea of where this is actually located. Well, again, we'll zoom out 101 yards. But the place is right here on the river, actually closer to Nikopol than to this city here. So there we were. like I always say, the links to these articles are in the description below. So if you wanted to read these articles and go into a little more detail, watch the videos, they're in the description below. So we get off to a continuation and following up of the events with Ukraine, and this is more of a positive news article of sorts, in kind of, if there is such a thing. But we're here at Old Dobrich, Bulgaria. And as we see the Bulgarian flag here, and what does Bulgaria have to do and all these people with Ukraine and what's going on? Well, there are a lot of Ukrainians in Bulgaria, and as a result, there's a lot of support for Ukrainians, as there is around the world, but especially in Bulgaria. And Bulgarians are offering food, shelter, transport to Ukrainians fleeing the war. And this article does feature this Rumen Sarandev, and seeing what he could do to help. He did not have a home to offer refugees, but he did have a car, so he drove north towards Romania and Ukraine, leaving the Bulgarian town of Dobrich. Sarandev and a convoy of 7 cars and 3 vans drove to Hisasia on the Romanian border. From there, he offered Ukrainian refugees fleeing into Romania a lift to anywhere they wanted to go. So good on Rumen. He said he was going to help people. That's great. I love these sort of stories where people come together to help out. And Bulgaria is certainly coming to the aid of the folks, the refugees from Ukraine. So let's find out where Dobrich is, and we'll also look at Isasia. I think that's how we say it in Romania. But Dobrich is right here in the northeast of. We'll just find out where we are here. I think we're in the town center. Dobrich, Museum Old Dobrich. That's where we were, right there. So Rumen took his caravan, I'm guessing on the E675, and took it up to the maybe the A4, the E87, came up this way, and there's Isacasia and port. So maybe he got folks off the port crossing the Danube from Ukraine into Romania, and help folks to a better situation there. So Dobrich, Bulgaria, good one, good article, good story with that. And we get off to the 5th and final news event or issue or matter or something going on in the world that's odd or unique. And we're here at the Embassy of France, and it says, Viva la Liberté in Washington, D.C., a new statue to celebrate the French-American friendship. Well, why are we looking at the French embassy in America? Well, gold bars, that's why. An interesting, very interesting story here. Gold bars stolen from a 1746 shipwreck returned to France from the U.S. after a decades-long investigation. This is crazy. It's a crazy story. So the United States returned several stolen artifacts to France on Wednesday, including 5 gold bars from a 1746 shipwreck after a decades-long investigation led U.S. federal agents to seize items from an online auction in California. So this is where it's interesting, right? So a group of divers, so gold bars were obviously former currency at the time. Some were recovered at the time, but forgotten until the mid-1970s. So this Homeland Security United States, David Keller, led the investigation into this, which is crazy to think about. But the French government indicted several of the excavators in the early 80s as they've been chasing down these artifacts since the 80s. The bars, this is where it gets crazy, made an appearance in a 1990 episode of Antiques Roadshow when a woman presented the ingots and a piece of Chinese porcelain, claiming that they'd been found off the coast of Africa, according to Keller. But it wasn't until years later the bars resurfaced and Homeland Security agents got involved in the case. In 2018, a couple in Tampa consigned the ingots to an online auction in Santa Rosa, California, initially listing the items as being from the French wreck. The agency seized the items as part of law, blah, 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 blah. You can read this, but what's interesting is this floated around many hands, probably hit eBay. These people that had this stuff probably didn't even realize what actually this was, which is crazy. And then Antiques Roadshow, which I'm guessing that's where this whole thing started back in 1999. I had to have somebody that had an idea of the value of this sort of stuff and where this came from. But, and then a third case, a human skull found in Houston, was traced back to a collection from catacombs in Paris. Interesting, very interesting story. This was returned, and it was returned back to the French embassy here in Washington, D.C. by U.S. federal agents. So let's take a look at where the embassy is. We were already in D.C. We're going back to Washington, D.C. And the embassy for France is somewhere around here. Embassy of Spain. That was the Embassy of Italy. There's the Embassy of Finland, Norway, Nepal. France. What is France? Why? Ooh. Know why I'm struggling with this one. Obviously, Sheridan Park. There's the Embassy of Russia. There's Finland, like I said. French Embassy, where is it? Well, I'm just going to drop it there. And oh, that's right, it was on the other side. The Embassy of France from Georgetown University Hospital. Wow. It's been a long week, folks. 24,995. No, I could probably get better than that. But hopefully enjoyed these news events. We went from Western Australia. That blew my mind that it's been that long that border, people have not been able to get in or get out. Ridiculous. Ridiculous, just in my opinion. The second and fifth round went to Washington, D.C., visit the White House and visit the French Embassy. The third round, we went to the nuclear power plant location there in the southeast of Ukraine. That's where it is again, for those who know and want to know, I should say. And then Dobrich, where the Good Samaritans of Bulgaria were going to the border over here. And by the way, this is the border of Ukraine. I know that you have Moldova here, but also too oftentimes people just maybe think that the border goes to this point, but nope, it does go through Moldova, which is interesting. It's an interesting border. I don't think there's a road here, so you got to go through Moldova unless you want to come down to take this bridge here. But in any case, that's for another time, another day. Hopefully you enjoyed this game news events of the day. If you have any other suggestions, any comments, any news articles you want me to feature in this game, I'll try to do it. It's going to be an up and down over the next couple weeks, busy with work, with kids, but I'll try to get as much content out as possible. And news of the day, we'll try to get 3 or 4 of them per week. With that said, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, cheers.